He was the greatest demon lord in history, commanding the largest demon horde the world had ever seen. But before he could fulfill his dream of conquering the world, God had other plans. Passing divine judgment on him, he was sent to the future, stripped of his powers and clothes. What happened? Now, in a silent and seemingly abandoned world, he wanders alone. Will he die as the last man on Earth? Or will he claw his way back to power and reclaim everything he desired?
It is the final day of the great war between humans and demons. The dark night shines with the fire raging underneath as a large dragon swirled around in the air. Thunder raging from the skies, sending shockwaves to the ground. A dark figure stood hovering in the air, surrounded by a massive dragon. The dragon swirled around him as a massive demon army stood ready for his orders. We see a guy clad in armor with long hair holding a sword mid-air. This is our protagonist Rang Shuoyan, declaring that he was finally going to unite the whole world under him. With he as its center, the whole world will be consumed by darkness. The only thing left was this tiny city which he can destroy with a flick of his finger. The monsters behind him raged with happiness, chanting the destruction. They dashed forward to complete the final task before them. But something caught one of the demon's eye. A shiny blue light, shimmering far away. The next moment, it flashes forward, chopping the demon in two halves as it continues to change directions, chasing all of them to death. The protagonist stood there silent, watching this happen with calm. The blue light charged towards him, but our boy pulled out his sword, creating a barrier blocking the attack. A girl's voice echoed from far, warning Rang not to even think about entering Xiangjing City, because as long as she was alive, she will not let that happen. The girl hovered in the air as a blue sword aura swirled around her. Now face to face, Rang greeted her, calling her junior sister, asking if she was the one tasked with guarding that city. He didn't even remember the city's name. After all, crushing 500 human cities in 3 months makes these things pointless. Who would remember the name of ants you squash on a daily basis? But she was different. Rang stood there with his evil aura oozing out. Giving a little smile, Rang offered her a position in the demon realm, second only to him if she surrendered before him. The thought made her laugh as she asked Rang if he wanted to make her his demon empress. How high or low the position didn't matter to her. The moment he turned into the dark side, she had no choice but to be his enemy. With her eyes glowing with rage, she dashed forward towards Rang for an attack. Their swords clashed, shockwaves spreading around. The girl gritted her teeth, struggling to overpower him. But our boy was chill, relaxed, smiling even. He swung his sword, sending the girl flying backward because of the sheer force in the attack. Lifting her hands, she readied a powerful attack as several glowing swords manifested around her. "Blossoming storm of pear blossoms," she screamed. The swords twisted and turned in the air as every one of them honed in on Rang. Rang prepared his defense, manifesting blood chi around him, asking the girl if she had any idea what the price of saving these people were for her. He swung his sword, shattering every sword that was coming his way, his chi condensing into a massive blood arrow pointing at the enemy. A wave of pure chi flowed from the girl, intercepting the attack as she swore to see this battle to the end no matter what. 2 waves clashed, sending shockwave everywhere, neutralizing each other. The battle raged on as they fight with tremendous speed, the whole sky erupting in flames. It was a shock to the demons as well. This girl was on the same level as our lord, the demon muttered, wondering if this is how a fight between demigods looked like. The clashing chi made the sky into a deadly vortex, beautiful yet terrifying. The people below looked up at the sky, prayed to the gods for their survival, watching this massive fight unfold. One woman with child pointed to the sky at something, wondered if this was divine punishment striking down upon the demon lord from the heavens. What she saw was several vortexes of light appearing through the clouds. The demons thought the sky was falling, while the two fighting were too busy to even notice anything. Their swords clashed again and again. Rang noticed a strange lightning forming above them. He screamed to the girl to stop the fight, telling her that something really strange was happening to the celestial phenomenon. The girl seemed to have taken it differently. She dropped her sword from her hand. Moving forward, she clutched Rang's shirt, telling him about the times she begged him to stop embracing the demonic path, which caught Rang by surprise. Now they no longer had the right to stop. The girl's face cracked as blue energy seeped out of her. She admitted she is not strong enough to defeat him, but she can still take him down with her by burning out her golden core. But that is not what he meant. He told her that their fight as semi-divine beings has already drawn divine judgment, and if this continues, before he could finish, A huge pillar of light shined down from the sky. The demons panicked at the sight of it and tried to flee, but it's too late. They got vaporized by the mere touch of the light. Multiple pillars of light struck the ground, shattering the land around, as the people stood there shielding themselves from the debris. A huge explosion rang out loud, as a divine voice was heard through. Humans and demons alike are utterly powerless in the face of divine punishment. The voice suddenly jolted her to reality. She turned around to see her beloved city, which she gave her life to protect, has now become just a massive crater on the ground. She clutched her mouth out of sheer terror, cursing how this could happen to the city. A sudden push by Rang made her fly off to the side as another light beam enveloped Rang, the girl barely out of its range. He looked at her with a serious face. As his face slowly started to crack open, he looked at the girl, giving her a smile. While the girl, still in shock, called out to Rang, trying to understand what's happening. All living things, without exception, were swallowed in an instant by this once in 10,000 years thunderstorm. The sky is now calm, with leaves floating in the wind. One of them glides to the ground, falling onto Rang's crown jewels, protecting his dignity. In that wide field laid Rang, stripped of all his clothes and confused. Just like me on a Monday morning. He opened his eyes, confused, thinking where he was. He remembered pushing the girl away, and then there was nothing. He now stood at a massive grass field, with clear sky as the ruins of building from his fight lay around him. The only living thing there beside him was the creepy rabbit, looking at him suggestively while he wondered where his followers went. Finally, it dawned on him. His armor was missing. Even his pants were not spared. Rang burned with anger at the one who exposed his jingle bells to the outside world. He unleashed his demonic aura, preparing for another fight. But all he could muster was a puff of smoke. Even his cultivation was gone. There he stood, in the wide open field, with his long flowy black hair and two well-baked buns, clenching his fists in sheer confusion of what is going on. Was this divine punishment because of his actions? Or was it because their power was too overwhelming? But he's never heard of the heavens punishing powerless mortals before. He stood there wondering while a bird landed on his hands. What exactly happened? The scene around him didn't look like it happened in just a few days. Suddenly a thought arose in his head. Rang put his hand on his face as he gave a mischievous smile. Could it be that the heavens are afraid of him? Are they afraid that he will ascend to sainthood and tear the heavens apart? He found the thought ridiculous as the bird's eyes shined with enthusiasm. As the bird flew to the sky, Rang, pointing at the sky, cursed the heavens for ruining his hard work and the empire he built with his blood and sweat. He warned them that he will never give up and told them to be cautious. All the while, the leaf, being the MVP, held up the massive boulders without giving up. But with his power gone, he wondered if the earth's spiritual vein, which is the source of his power, was still intact or not. As he started to feel the vein's power, he was surprised to find the mana flowing was significantly weaker than before. This was no different than an era of magical decline. As the small fireball in his hands dissipated, Rang was annoyed by the fact that he was not even able to reach the foundation state with that magic energy. If someone like him, with his abilities, is reduced to this, then the others must already be dead. But suddenly something got his attention. He bent down to the ground, lifting up a piece of glowing jade, recognizing it as a piece of the heart-guarding jade worn by his junior sister. And the fact that it shattered means that the girl must also be dead. He looked at the jade, wondering about such a possibility. Shivering with anger, he lashed out at the heavens. If not for them, he should now be in an interrogation chamber getting top-secret info out of the girl. For a moment, our boy let his fantasies go wild, imagining the girl tied up, asking for water. He had to remind himself of his world domination goal to snap out of it. But he can't stop himself. As he extended her some water, the girl hesitantly resisted drinking it. But you can't just let her starve to death. So he took it upon himself to be a responsible citizen and dove in for some mouth-to-mouth CPR. As the water ran down her throat, she coughed out some due to the sudden rescue operation. Seething in anger, she looked at him, asking why he didn't kill her, addressing him as a traitor. Lifting up her chin, he told her that he couldn't bring himself to do that to her. Welling up hearing this answer, she cried, asking him once again for his reason to turn to the dark side. The chain tying her hands broke loose as she fell down to Rang's hands. Carrying her, Rang tells her to rest, reassuring her not to do anything to her till she heals. Laying in his hands, slightly blushing, the girl thanked him for sparing her life even though they were on opposite sides. Looking away from Rang, she asked why they were still wasting time thinking of the rest of the world. Or at least that was how his story was supposed to go. But now he is stuck naked in the middle of nowhere. His half-divine body is gone. The demon army is gone. Even his junior sister is gone. He doesn't even have his pants anymore. Unable to bear the tragedy, Rang broke down on the ground, crying about his fate. But quickly regaining his composure, he decided to regain what he lost, even if it takes 100 years. But there was a slight problem. The city of Xiangjing was in ruins and the world was broken. So what is the point of conquering such a world? Angry and irritated, Rang started plucking grass around him. Within seconds, he weaved that grass together to make a makeshift blanket for himself. He draped himself in it, thinking about just lying flat and waiting for his death at this point. But laying down, he became restless and started to roll on the floor. Settling down after a while, he looked up at the sky and wondered if he would see the junior sister or his demon army in the afterlife. Suddenly, in the sky, a spherical object darted out of the clouds with super speed, startling Rang. He jumped up from the ground, annoyed that the world isn't even letting him die in peace. But the moment he looked back up, his annoyance turned to fear. A giant UFO hovered over him as it blasted a beam of light toward the ground. Seeing the light slowly move toward him, our boy darted out of there, scared for his life. He leapt into the air and jumped inside a nearby bush, hoping to get away from the aliens. Looking out, the sight he saw was unexplainable. A monster made of steel hovering in air, blasting light, was not something he was familiar with. But instead of being scared, our boy's face twisted with excitement. This was a sign of life. And if there was life, the world was worth conquering. Thinking this, Rang kept observing the UFO. It was moving closer, destroying all the grass in its way as it was looking for something. But suddenly it stopped, and in its crosshairs was a rabbit. Rang stood there, confused as to why this thing would go through all that trouble for a rabbit. The light beam stopped. The next moment, another beam shined toward the ground, hitting the rabbit, electrocuting it, as the rabbit screamed in pain. As the dust settled, the rabbit lay there on the ground lifeless. One thing was clear, the beam was definitely a weapon. But then it hit him. A white light. The way it flickers on and off, it was just like the divine punishment beams. Back in the fight, the light which shined down was similar. Could it be connected to this monster? If the beams were from this thing, then it was not divine punishment after all. Rang clenched his fists, thinking of the possibility. But scaring him again, the UFO quickly flew close above his head as it swished past him, rising toward the sky. Seeing it get away, Rang sprinted behind it with his makeshift clothes, determined not to let it get away like this. He crouched down, lifting his hand, and called for his flying technique. But nothing happened. It dawned on him again. He was now a level 1 loser who can't even reach the foundation level, let alone fly. Looking at the UFO trail, Rang wondered where it was headed and what its goal was for killing that rabbit. Even if he can't fly, he has Tio follow it and find out for himself. Maybe there's still a chance to turn things around. Rang stood up and walked away while the rabbit lay there motionless, smoke coming out of its mouth. But something is happening. The rabbit's leg twitched. A slow huffing emerged from the rabbit as its eyes started glowing purple. Not long ago, he was the fearsome demon lord who ruled the world, who killed everyone who defied him. The demons would bow down before him. Even mortals far removed from the cultivation world would tremble at the sound of his name. Mothers would scare their baby to keep quiet using the name of the demon lord. That is a massive ego boost, making the kids scared shitless. But now, he is using straw mats as pants, scavenging just to survive. Fed up of walking for an hour, he clenched his fist asking for the monster to come face him. He slammed his fist onto the ground, challenging the monster, but blindly throwing the punch blindly. His fist landed in quicksand. And now he is stuck in a questionable position. Pulling his hands out, he struggled his way out of there. Maybe his luck also went to zero after the teleport. He falls onto the ground covered in mud. Furious at the one responsible for his current state, he vowed to obliterate him the next chance he gets. Looking into his reflection, complimenting his looks, he saw himself with mud all over his face, giving him a heart attack. He rinsed his face quickly and went for a take two. As he looked onto his reflection, he commented how his Gigachad body and face is still dashing even after walking for an hour in the scorching sun. Looks like he's fallen in love with himself all over again. But what is the point of all this if he was the only soul there to appreciate it? The land is barren and hot as he continued his journey. He's now walked for a whole hour and there is no sign of anyone. Could it be that he is the last person left in that world? Determined to not let that be, he pushed himself forward. The flying monster he saw could be someone's artifact or a spirit beast. If it's an artifact or spirit beast, it must have an owner, so it should have someone alive inside it. Holding onto the hope, he pushed himself to continue the journey. But the next step he took was on a pile of shit, dirtying the sandals he made to look more presentable. But this drew his attention to the ground. The mud path has now turned into stone pavement. Seeing the orderly stone pavement, he remembered something. The final battle was just outside Junior Sister's Xiangning City. Even though the demon army was wiped out, Xiangning looked like a wreck from afar. But there were thousands of people there, and it seems like the monster went that direction. There must be survivors there. Rang bolted with his newfound vigor towards the city to see some semblance of life there. But my man really needs an exercise. Finally, he made it. He stood before the wrecked entrance of the city, looking up admiring the giant gates. Deciding to waste no time, he put his hands towards his chest, summoning his ring. The ring flew up into the sky, shining with a golden light. Hovering in the air for a while, it returned to Rang's hand. Rang was surprised that the thing was still in the city after all this time. It maintained its connection. There is definitely something unusual here. And in that case, we got to open up the gates first. Rang prepped his fists for a punch as he swung with all his might at an iron wall. It went as you would expect. Even if the gate didn't open, his hand was definitely going to. Giving up on the stupid idea, he decided to walk around. Towards the side of the wall, he saw a narrow hole going towards the interior of the city. But how can the great demon lord lower himself to this? Well, maybe he can if he wants to enter the place. As long as he gets inside. Does it matter how? Great achievements don't fuss over the details. The city lay broken in front of him. The buildings and the street were torn down and destroyed. A quick gust of wind drew his attention. Looking to the side, he asked if somebody was hiding there. But no response. Well, even if he didn't find the monster, at least he can find himself a proper set of clothes in this place. Rummaging through the pile of rubble, he picked up a book and wiped it clean. If things didn't improve and stayed like this, he needed to do something. Using a piece of charcoal from the ground, he scribbled out his will on a piece of paper, asking whoever found it to inherit his legacy and relive his glorious past. Since the heavens don't want him dead, in the apocalypse, he's just picking up trash and showing it to the heavens. And if things go wrong, well, now there's a backup plan. At least now he had something to call clothes. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to a glass bottle lying on the ground. He picked it up, thinking it was an elixir, but it turned out to be a strength pill for your third leg. The great demon lord didn't need that. He walked off, leaving the elixir behind for someone who actually did. As he continued on, a shadow slowly appeared over the bottle. It was our boy back again, having a change of heart. Such items didn't mean much to him, but if he found survivors in the city, they would need it. In the apocalypse, mutual aid is key to survival. Scores can be settled after making it through the hard times. Not sweating the details, he pressed on with his exploration, picking up whatever he could find. A robe, a pot filled with rotting leaves, and a rope that looked perfect for playing cat's cradle. After a full day of scavenging, he sat down to review the results. And yeah, it was disappointing. He only found 3 bottles of medicinal pills, 2 sets of clothes, some gold and silver ingots, and a big iron rod. He wrote it all down in his journal. Frustration built inside him. There weren't even bones left, not a nail, not a strand of hair. It was as if people had vanished into thin air. He grew angry just thinking about the kind of power that could cause that kind of destruction. A wicked smile crept onto his face. If such a power couldn't be used for him, then it had to be destroyed. He picked up a stick, grabbed all the junk he had gathered, and confidently moved forward. Now that he was armed and clothed, maybe he finally had what it took to face that monster. Before he could even finish the thought, he tripped and face-planted into the ground. Looking back to see what caused it, he saw an iron chain lying on the ground, disappearing into a crack below. He tried yanking it, but nothing happened. A stronger pull threw him off balance again, but this time something shifted. A hidden door creaked open beneath his feet, and just like that, he fell through. Oil lamps flickered to life in the dark as Rang looked forward in awe. A massive mansion stood at the center of the giant underground cave he'd landed in. For a moment, he considered heading back up to grab the iron rod before going any further. But then, something hit his nose. A familiar scent. He sniffed the air again, just to confirm. No mistake. It smelled exactly like the junior disciple. His body shivered with excitement. The fragrance was so strong, it had to be her chamber. He couldn't believe it. Her chamber was hidden underground this whole time. And just like that, our boy bolted toward the mansion. Faster than a Discord mod typing his credit card info for an OnlyFans subscription. Running into the mansion, he did a mid-air 360 and landed straight onto the bed, face first into the cotton like he'd finally found peace. This had to be the junior's quarters, and with the city completely empty, there was no reason to hold back anymore. Man grabbed the pillow and inhaled the scent like he'd been starved of oxygen for a year. Wasting no time, he summoned his spirit-infused stone, which flew from his chest and rose high into the air. It glowed brightly, revealing a few boxes hidden around the room. The moment he opened one, his excitement hit a new high. Determined to keep Junior's belongings safe, he started rummaging through the contents like a man on a divine mission. Man's determined to secure the waifu artifacts. He picked up a hairpin and a mirror, thinking about how she always fought him with a bare face. Yet deep down, she was still that girl who loved pretty things. He quickly packed those away like precious relics, then went in for round 2. Next up, her lingerie. He picked it up and wondered if it was imported from the western regions. Just imagining her still alive, standing in front of him wearing that, he nearly passed out from blood loss. His brain started running dangerous simulations. He immediately stuffed it back to save himself from dying to his own thoughts. Clinging to life, he reached for the third box, half convinced he'd actually die if he opened it. But this one was different, 2 layers of security on it. Definitely important. His mind spiraled into possibilities that would absolutely get this video taken down. When he finally managed to crack it open, he blinked in surprise. It was filled with old clothes and stuffed dolls. Lifting up a familiar robe, he couldn't help but chuckle as memories came flooding back. Back then, a girl's voice called out, telling her senior to stop running from her. Rang stood on a bridge, telling her to go spar with the other juniors. She, of course, ran straight toward him instead. His swordsmanship was miles ahead of hers, and he thought sparring with her was a waste of time, which she didn't appreciate at all. Pouting, she asked how he could be so rude. Then came that mischievous smile, always a red flag. Suddenly, a scream rang out behind him. Rang turned around and saw her lying on the ground like she was hurt. But before he could react, she dropped the act and hugged him tightly, telling him to stop pretending not to care. Her pillows pressed up against him as Rang struggled to break free. But she clung to him, insisting he spar with her right now. He warned that their teacher would ground them both if they got caught. But she wasn't budging even an inch. In the middle of their playful tussle, Rang lost balance and toppled right on top of her. She looked away in embarrassment, asking what he thought he was doing. Realizing his hands had landed on 2 very soft pillows, his expression changed as he went in for a little feel. But the girl wasn't having it. She raised her hands and slapped Rang straight into oblivion. He sat there on the bed, staring at the outfit in his hands. It was the same one she used to wear during sword practice. Hugging it close to his chest, he couldn't believe she'd held onto it all this time. His mind was still drowning in those blasphemous thoughts. He remembered how he got a little too bold once, copped a feel and got slapped into another dimension. The pain still echoed, and looking at him now, he definitely enjoyed that slap a bit too much. She had kept the outfit all these years. But just a few years after that, Master expelled him from the sect. Even though he could never forget his junior sister, they never practiced swordplay together again after that. A soft smile appeared on his face as he thought about her swordsmanship during their last fight, genuinely impressed by how far she'd come. But beneath that smile was a little sting, thinking about who her training partner might have been all those years. Swallowing those old feelings, he moved closer to the bed. Rummaging under the pillow, he hit something again. This guy was officially breaking all levels of personal boundaries now. It was another set of fine cotton, censored for obvious reasons. If he hadn't gone off practicing demonic arts and had just stayed in the sect, he would have surely become her Dao partner by now. And those clothes? Yeah, those would have been worn just for him. And once they had a child together, it'd be big enough that he could start stealing the baby's food for himself. He was completely lost in his own world at this point. Even if it didn't happen back then, it should have happened when he united the world under him. But the monster had ruined everything. He promised himself he'd make that beast pay for what it took from him. Drowning in his regrets, he forced himself to let go of the past. He gathered all the things, vowing to protect them, even if he never found her again. These were memories of his youth, and they meant something. Then he went full loot goblin mode, swiping everything he could get his hands on. In the blink of an eye, the whole place had been cleaned out. Everything was gone. Except one thing. He crouched down on the floor, genuinely regretting that he couldn't take the bricks too. But as he casually tugged at one of the floor tiles, it popped off, surprising him. Beneath it was a small hidden compartment. He reached in, feeling around, and pulled out a dusty, worn-out diary. Blowing off the dirt, he looked at the title, then smiled in a way that would definitely raise eyebrows. A creepy little grin spread across his face as he decided to see what she had written about him. Opening the book, the first entry was about the day she met Rang. She stood in the rain, clothes soaked, frustrated that she forgot her umbrella. She slammed the ground, embarrassed that she'd have to show up to the sect like a drowned rat on her first day. Then, a figure appeared behind her, holding an umbrella over her head. She looked up, surprised. It was Rang. He'd come to find her, knowing she'd be heading to the sect that day. She thanked him and asked if he was the senior brother, Rang Shuoyan. With a sneaky smile, he confirmed it, introducing himself like a true player. Rang sat there on the floor, reading about how she thought he'd be hard to approach, but turned out to be kind, and how her heart felt like it was floating into the sky. He chuckled, complimenting her poetic skills in his head. But then, confusion hit him. This version of him sounded way too kind-hearted and innocent. Then it clicked. Back then, the other senior brothers had said a super beautiful girl was joining the sect. So he sprinted off with an umbrella just to get the first look at the new beauty. Flipping through the pages, he realized just how much she'd written about him. The diary was thick. He promised to treasure it and read a bit every night before bed. Suddenly, something stood out. One of the pages was written in red ink. He flipped to it and started reading. It was about the time Rang grabbed her pillows and commented on how big they were. She described how he'd squeezed them and how embarrassed it made her. She wrote that ever since then, she kept seeing his face in her dreams every night. His face, red like a tomato, made him wonder why the diary felt different from how he remembered Junior. As he drooled over it, a monstrous silhouette appeared behind him, eyes glowing red. A sudden change in the air caught his attention. He glanced behind, grabbing his pole, ready for battle. Finally, he wasn't alone in this world. The monster closed the distance, darting straight for him. His cultivation level had fallen far from where it used to be. He couldn't take this creature lightly. The monster's eyes glowed purple as it stopped in front of him in all its magnificence. It was the rabbit that had been hit by the beam earlier. How was it alive again? The rabbit leapt in for an attack but bounced right off his body, dealing little to no damage. Sticking the landing, it tried again with a barrage of attacks. After a while, Rang got so annoyed by its noise that he smacked it square in the face, sending it flying into the wall. Terrible monster. The rabbit had mutated after being killed by that strange light. Seems like anything hunted by the UFO could come back to life. The dead rabbit slowly turned from white to black as Rang wondered if it could still be eaten. How do you know if you don't try? So he grilled that sweet meat, wondering if Junior was on a diet since her massive quarters didn't have a single scrap of food. To his surprise, even though the meat was a little tough, it turned out to be pretty good. Back to the diary. Junior wrote about how Rang was famous for his insane talent. Even before joining the sect, he used his skills to help people, and after joining, his cultivation advanced rapidly. But not everyone was happy about it. Some senior and rich disciples constantly bullied and humiliated him. Junior's eyes had welled up as she wrote that. Their master was no different. Whenever something happened, he blamed Rang. And after Rang killed a truly awful person, that man's rich family demanded Rang be handed over to them, to pay for his actions with his life. So when he was expelled and turned to the demonic path, Junior couldn't really blame him. Rang lay there with the diary on his chest, thinking about the past. He'd always assumed Junior hated him for choosing the demonic path, but it turned out the reason he left the sect wasn't what she thought. Setting the diary aside, he asked Junior if she didn't blame him after all. He promised her that someday he would definitely find her. As he drifted into sleep, he heard a faint voice calling to him. Slowly opening his eyes, he saw Junior, dressed in a beautiful outfit, lying next to him. Rang startled awake, only for her to tell him to stop screaming and kiss her so they could get it on. This was the moment he had been waiting for. He dove in for the kiss, and Junior shivered in joy. Blushing, she told Rang he was being too rough, but he couldn't help himself. She smelled too good. Climbing on top of him, Junior asked if he liked this version of her. What's not to like? She was the most beautiful woman in the world. Looking at him with tearful eyes, she asked why he hadn't gone looking for her if he liked her so much. Still lying there with Junior on top, he swore to find her, even if it meant not eating or sleeping. But wasn't she right here? Why bother searching? Ignoring logic, he went in for another smoochfest. She stopped him, offering him the chance to do whatever he wanted, if he found her first. Our boy was completely immersed, saliva pooling on the pillow, having the best dream of his life. Finally waking up, he threw the pillow aside in disappointment and lifted the blanket to check something. There it was, the soldier, standing at attention, fully armed and ready to fire. Embarrassed, Rang slapped some discipline into the soldier for breaking its vow of virtue and daring to do something like that to Junior, even in a dream. Finally, he decided to set out. He searched the entire city, but there was still no sign of the legless, laser-shooting crab. Maybe it had never been there in the first place. But it wasn't all a waste. Surely that dream had been influenced by Junior's lingering spirit in the hall. Definitely not because he was shameless. So, if that's the case, Junior's sister might actually still be alive. She must have run into some kind of trouble, which is why she had to reach out through her spirit and dreams. He couldn't let her wait any longer. Everything that was happening was definitely connected to that flying crab. He had to find it, and fast. If he had even a fraction of his old power, this wouldn't be a problem. Then it hit him, he could go back to Bashashan, his headquarters. It had everything, including the treasure vault he'd dug out himself. If he used everything in there, he could probably recover at least 40% of his power. With the world in chaos and no heroes left to fight, once he recovered, the world would be his playground again. But Bashashan was 4,000 li away, a simple walk of about 300 to 500 years. Frustration kicked in. Even if Junior was alive now, by the time he got there, the grass on her grave would be a foot tall. And that's not even counting walking under the scorching sun. It is day 1 of the long road home. Rang is walking through the scorching desert with the sun screaming at him from above. He is almost completely drained, looking like a mummy about to die again. His eyes tear up thinking about the times the Demon Clan elder advised him to get up from his chair and do some exercise. But he refused to comply. And now, he is facing the consequences. The demon elder bows before Rang, advising him on the importance of strengthening his body, even though he possesses the body of a demigod and immense magic. But Rang, arrogantly sitting on his throne, asked what situation could possibly arise that would require him to rely on his body, telling the elder to stop overthinking. Determined to prove the elder wrong, Rang summons a huge cage containing a dangerous harpy monster. The elder trembles at the sight of the monster. It is the fallen wing overlord queen, who violently preys on humans by spreading desire in their hearts and exploiting them. Rang, still sitting unfazed, comments that he's getting bored and commands the cage to be opened. The cage disappears instantly, surprising even the monster inside. The elder suddenly springs into action, cautioning Rang to be careful while getting ready to engage at any moment. Still unfazed, Rang taunts the harpy, asking if she is too scared to approach him. Hearing this, the harpy darts forward in rage toward Rang. As her claws come close to shredding him to pieces, Rang casually extends his hand, summoning a magic circle, and commands the harpy to hold. The giant monster, mid-dash, freezes in the air, unable to move an inch. Frustration kicks in as it struggles to break free. Rang continues to taunt it, enraging the harpy further. The next moment, Rang twists his hand, causing the harpy's feet to snap as blood sprays out. Finishing it off, Rang, with a flick of his finger, bursts the harpy into a fountain of blood pouring onto the ground. The elder is stunned at the demonstration as Rang asks if he still needs to train, holding one of the harpy's eyes in his hand. Now, back to the current time, all Rang can do is sit on a sand dune, reminiscing about his good old days. Standing up determined, he decides to train rigorously once he reaches Bashation, and forge his body into an unbreakable iron being so Junior can play with it however she wants. Lifting his hands up, he complains about the heat after walking for 3 hours already. The realization hits. Only 3 hours. Trying to pump himself up, he announces that the Demon Lord shall know no defeat and conquer everything. But that can wait a while. Rang falls asleep below a cliff while a small dome pokes out from the top, looking at him. My man is having yet another one of his dreams. Junior, serving him food, asks why he is always hungry, either for food or for her, and never interested in anything else. While he's busy, setting the mood in the dream, a giant rat pounces on him from above, looking to have an easy meal. His Demon Lord senses kick in, and in a second, he blocks the rat's attack with his iron pole. He insults the rodent for having the audacity to attack the Demon King and throws it away as it lands on its feet. But the sneaky rat already landed an attack that jolted his whole body. It turns out the rat knows lightning magic. Rang now faces the rat head-on while another one sneaks behind him. He slowly removes his shirt, wrapping it around his right arm as he talks about the times he started his training journey. Back then, he used this technique to beat down lightning users. Using his shirt as an insulator, he picks up his iron rod as the rats pounce on him from both sides. He dodges their attack at the last second, kicking one of them in the face. For the other, the fate is far worse. Rang shoves his pole right into the back entrance of the second rat, violating it in front of the other. Its eyes pop out as its soul leaves its body instantly. The other rat, witnessing this cruelty, curses Rang in mouse language, vowing to fight him to the end for his friend's humiliation. Picking up his pole, Rang taunts the mouse, telling it to shut up so he can have a nice feast sooner. He charges forward, striking the rat straight in the head and piercing its skull in one move, a feat that even impresses him. Crouching down in front of the rat, he comments on how ugly it is. The great Demon Lord will not stoop to eating rat meat, even if it's mutated and tender. Still undignified, he walks away from the rats, leaving the corpses to Mother Earth. Well, maybe Mother Earth can eat later. And if no one else is around but him, then dignity can take a hike. Rang starts preparing to cook the meat, skinning the rat and cutting it into tiny pieces. As the meat cooks, he grabs a chipmunk and devours it, savoring the bite like a devil. The next moment, his eyes tear up from how tasty the meat is. But he's not eating for himself. Oh no, he's just testing the meat for poison so he can store it in his bag and give it to others. After all, it's not like a demon lord to eat rat meat. He still has his dignity to consider. That's all for this video, guys. Comment down below if you are interested in a second part for this. The story is a little slow, but it does develop in coming episodes. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more of that juicy recaps.